YouTube Zico in the Goat House is back with a big one for you guys today. Every single NFL team's options or scenarios for day one of the NFL draft. The teams without a round one pick. We'll go over the round two options here. A lot went into this video, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. We'll be live during day one. We'll have winners, losers, grades throughout the draft here on the channel. Live analysis for day 2 and 3 on our Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. Make sure you turn those notifications on. Starting with the Chicago Bears. And again, we'll do this for every single team. And there's no point of going over options for the first overall pick because the Bears will be taking Caleb Williams. So let's start with the Bears and their 9th overall pick. And I could sit here and list all of the possible options. I think it would be pretty lame. Let's try to narrow it down a little bit. So most realistic options at pick 9, in my opinion, and based on what we're hearing, Rome Odunze, if he slides to the Bears, possibly. And Byron Murphy, who is my number 1 defensive player in the draft, he's starting to get the buzz to be able to go up here. So that's a possibility as well. Realistic picks at 9, some talk about it, but that would be a reach in my opinion. Jared Verse and Alu Fashanu. Surprise pick, a little bit of talk about Brock Bowers because Shane Waldron loves using multiple tight ends, so that would be a little bit of a surprise to some people. If they trade up, I would think Malik Neighbors. If they were to trade back, my prediction would be they're targeting Jared Verse. So to kind of go in depth about some more of these, yeah, a little high for me on Verse if they go him there, but it sounds like they like him as a fit. Makes sense in Matt Eberflus's 4-3 defense. Fashanu, a lot of people will say he's probably worthy of a pick up here. Not me. I don't think he's worth anywhere near the 9th pick. I think he's getting a little bit too much hype here. I don't really think the Bears necessarily need a tackle, but there's a little talk about it. Brock Bowers would be a little bit of a surprise because they already have Cole Kmet, who's a stud, and they added Gerald Everett. If they were to, this is a big one too, if they were to trade up, there's a lot of talk in Chicago right now about Marvin Harrison Jr. being that guy. I just don't see it. I really think he's the first receiver off the board. I guess that's not a guarantee. I heard some teams like Neighbors ahead of him, but I'm thinking very likely Marvin Harrison Jr. is the first receiver off the board. And I don't think a team would trade, like a team like the Cardinals, would they trade with the Bears so they can get Marvin Harrison Jr.? I think the only way the Cardinals trade back, it's for a team that needs a quarterback, so the Cardinals can go back and then maybe come back up again, but where they could still get a big-time receiver. So this would not help them. So I think a team like that is only trading for a team that would come up to get a quarterback. So Neighbors, I think, really fits Waldron's offense. And I mean, they could move up for Odunze if they feel like he's not going to slip through. In trade back, we talk about Verse being a really good fit because the 4-3. I think there's better pass rushers. Dallas Turner is another one. He's getting some talk about going to the Bears at 9. I'm just going to, and it's possible, but I'm going to say they don't view him as a perfect fit. I'm more of a guy to just get the best, most talented guys, and I do love Dallas Turner, but that'd be a little bit of a surprise to me just based on scheme fit. But they could target Verse. I would just hope they would trade back to 9. Out of all these realistic options, my favorite would be if Odunze just slipped through to him at 9. This was a battle for me, actually. Like, could they, like an A+ scenario, could they trade back a little bit, get more picks, and take Byron Murphy the 2nd if they trade back? I would love that as well for the Chicago Bears. So there you have it for them. Commanders, we don't have to talk too much about the Commanders in this video because there's not too many options. At 2, they are either going to take LSU's quarterback Jaden Daniels or Drake May, North Carolina's quarterback. And to me, the best scenario, I voiced my opinion on this all offseason, is taking Drake May 2nd. I like him better as an NFL prospect. I think he has the most upside in the class versus Jaden Daniels. Drake May has, what an elite NFL quarterback, not saying he's going to be elite, but he has kind of what those guys have in terms of what it takes to be an elite NFL quarterback down the line, possibly for Drake May. And I threw in here, could they trade up into round 1 from round 2 because the collection of picks they have in day 2, of course, and a couple options that stood out. Chop Robinson for Dan Quinn's defense, maybe like a Micah Parsons type player, poor man's. And then Jordan Morgan, really good pass protector. I think would be a Cliff Kingsbury type left tackle. He's just lacking a little bit of length, but he's a very good pass protector. So there you have it for the Commanders. On to the Patriots. Things get interesting now at the Patriots because they're talking about they're open to trading back. So interesting situation there, but the most realistic options for them at 3, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. One's going to be there, one is not going to be there, and then Marvin Harrison Jr., not Marvin's Harrison, the graphics guy messed that up, but Marvin Harrison Jr., which would be a really good option too because they have more needs than just quarterback, but I'm a big Drake May guy, so I think that's the best scenario. If he's there, you take him. I would honestly lean Marvin Harrison Jr. over Jaden Daniels. Would be a reach if they took McCarthy at 3, and I like McCarthy, but at 3 and over one of May or Daniels or Harrison Jr., I think it would make it a little bit of a reach. A surprise pick at 3 could be Joe Alt. Would surprise a lot of people, but they do need a left tackle. You got a unique type of left tackle. And if they traded back, it's a tough one. Who would they actually target? Could target a guy like Fashanu. I really wouldn't really love that, though, if they traded back and they end up getting him. I think just stay put and take the big-time talent. What is also interesting is I heard that the Patriots don't have a ton of guys on their entire their entire board for the draft, less than most teams. So that would mean they want more picks towards the top. So would they end up staying put? It's going to be interesting with the New England Patriots at 3. It's really going to come down which quarterback do the Commanders choose at 2 to first for the Patriots to decide kind of what they're going to do there. Pick 4, the Cardinals got to go over that 27th overall pick as well, which is behind me. But most realistic options at 4, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. I don't think it's going to be any other position. That'd be quite shocking. But I did throw a surprise pick in there. They were a little surprising last year with the maneuvers they pulled or what they targeted in Paris Johnson. But what if they went corner, which is very important for Jonathan Gannon? Terrion Arnold seems like a decent fit, but that would be a shocker. If they trade back, I still think it would be for one of the receivers, but most likely they end up with Odunze if you trade back. And then realistic options at pick 27, Chop Robinson, which I think would be the best scenario, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Max Melton from Rutgers. But the best option for me is at 4 is Marvin Harrison Jr., the best receiver, the best non-quarterback in the entire draft. So the Cardinals have potential to come away with a pretty good haul as long as they don't mess it up. Pick 5, the Chargers. Realistic options, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Joe Alt. And I put would be a steal, Marvin Harrison Jr. There's a small percentage it could happen. I'm just not putting in a realistic option. I really think he's off the board. I don't see the Chargers could reach. I don't really see them reaching for some reason at pick 5. Surprise pick, I'd say J.C. Latham or Brock Bowers. Threw 2 in there. Be a surprise pick at 5. Some people would view J.C. Latham as a reach. I would not. But if they take him over Joe Alt, could have a debate there. If they trade back, I'd watch again for J.C. Latham. A lot of the talk is going back to 11 for like the Vikings for an example. With the Vikings for an example, and then J.C. Latham for right tackle, who Harbaugh recruited, is a big time right tackle. Scheme wise fits Harbaugh's blocking scheme. So that's one I would watch. Best scenario if Marvin Harrison Jr. slipped through to him. After that, I do love Neighbors as a fit. I like Odunze with Herbert as well. They're in a situation where you can't really fully go wrong. I would kind of disagree with trading back and taking yourself out of the conversation of taking an elite receiver, depending on what you get. But we'll see what happens with the Chargers, a very intriguing team for the draft. Another one, the Giants, realistic options at 6, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and J.J. McCarthy. That would surprise me, honestly. McCarthy would surprise me, but wouldn't surprise majority of the population probably. Would be a steal, Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe a slight chance it happens. So we just like the Chargers, we threw that in here. Surprise pick, Brock Bowers. I'm surprised that's not talked about a little bit more. Not that I think it's going to happen, but get a big-time tight end with Waller near retirement or going to retire soon maybe for Dayball's offense. It seems like a fit. Seems like that one makes some sense, and it's not being talked about enough. If they trade up, I think it'd be for Drake May, which I'm a big Drake May fan. And if they trade back, I'd look out for Troy Fautanu, who they would probably play at guard. I think it'd be a pretty good fit at guard for them, but I'm not really expecting a trade back. So best scenario, I'm such a Drake May guy. I think he'd be perfect for Dayball's offense, kind of what he did with Josh Allen. But also a best scenario, I really like Rome Odunze for them. I mean, if Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think he's going to be there, so that's why I didn't do that best scenario. That's like really a long shot. So obviously that one. But Rome Odunze is another one where you don't have to trade up. He's going to be there at 6 probably, and then you take him. I love that scenario for the New York Football Giants. Pick 7, the Tennessee Titans. Joe Alt, Rome Odunze, J.C. Latham. These feel like the most realistic options for me at 7 for the Tennessee Titans. Would be a reach, Alu Fashanu. I love Callahan as an offensive line coach. I'm not really going to doubt him, but if they took Fashanu, I would. I'm not a huge fan of his, so I think it's definitely early, but it's definitely possible they could do it. Surprise pick would be Brock Bowers. They could use another tight end. His favorite team seems to be the Tennessee Titans based on what he said. If they trade up, it could be for Joe Alt to hop the Chargers, but Malik Neighbors seems like a Callahan type guy. Seems like a really good fit with Ridley. If they trade back, they'd probably be targeting Fashanu, I'd think. But I think there's better offensive line options out there. Depends on how far they trade back. But so that one's usually tough to predict. But there you go for the Tennessee Titans. I think the best scenario is Joe Alt, even though Odunze is going to be a little higher on my board. They just so badly need a tackle, and you have an elite tackle here. And a perfect spot to go and learn from maybe the best offensive line coach in football for a guy with crazy upside. It just makes so much sense. For the Falcons, not too many options. You're really just seeing Dallas Turner to them. That's all you're seeing. I think Quinyon Mitchell is a very realistic option as well, fitting Raheem Morris's defense, a zone corner, playmaking corner here. Would be a reach, Jared Verse. I don't know if they really entertain that idea, but you see people saying that, like our fans, they want him to take Jared Verse. I don't view it as a fit, and I think it's early, but there is some talk about it, so we put it on here. Surprise pick would be Terrion Arnold. You don't really see that mocked much, and I do think he is better than Mitchell overall, but for specifically Morris's zone defense, Mitchell does make a little more sense. If they trade back, lot 2, which actually could be a possibility at 8, but because of his medical concerns, past injury history, maybe you trade back and get him if you like him most. But I really think it's pass rusher or corner. Anything else would be a little surprising, but there's always crazy surprises. So we'll see what happens when Atlanta there. We talked about the Bears' 9th pick already. For 10, the Jets. Most realistic options, Taliesin Fuaga from Oregon State, Brock Bowers, and Alu Fashanu. There's some buzz recently that Brock Bowers is unlikely for the Jets now, but he's been mocked there so much to throw him in there. Would be a steal. There is some sort of percentage chance that Odunze slips through a little bit. Say the Bears trade that pick and don't take Odunze. I think they would take him, but there's a little bit of a scenario. Could they even trade up for him? But that would be amazing for them. Surprise pick would be Brian Thomas Jr. there, which really good receiver, just no one's really expecting. If they trade up, I think you go for the big-time tackle and Joe Alt. And then if they trade back, I think maybe Fatanu, you probably have to trade back a little bit, though. We could throw J.C. Latham in this conversation as well. But, they could be looking for an offensive lineman, a guy that can fill in if a tackle gets injured or put the guy at some of these tackles could play guard. Quite a few of them, actually, or have upside there. So that could be where the Jets' heads are at. They could be a trade back team. If you trade back a little bit and get Fatanu, I would actually like that a lot for the New York Jets. 11 for the Vikings. This is a pretty in-depth one here because what the hell are they going to do? Most realistic options at 11, J.J. McCarthy. I play out so many different scenarios in mocks, and there's so many, not all of them, but there's so many scenarios where McCarthy slips through to 11. So I think it's a possibility at 11, and they got to realize that. If they stay put at 11, they're not taking a quarterback. I'd look out for Byron Murphy II. If they're not looking for a quarterback there and they're taking something else, that's the guy I'm looking for. Terrion Arnold's another one. Would be a reach. I think if you trade up for McCarthy, I guess it depends on where you trade up to, but if you're trading a 3, 4, even 5, I think we're talking a little too early, and especially if one of the other quarterbacks is on the board, but maybe they wouldn't be. Surprise pick with Michael Penix Jr. I'm not expecting it at all. Some people talk about it. It would be a pretty good landing spot for him. If they trade up, Drake May. The Vikings got a really good roster, really good weapons, especially on offense. That's the best scenario. If they can get May, even if they trade a lot, that team's set up for a long, long time. Most realistic options down at 23 if they keep the pick. I don't know if they keep that pick. Johnny Newton seems like a fit down there. And Bo Nix, it could be Michael Penix as well, but I think they would view Nix maybe more as a fit. And if they need a quarterback when they're on the clock at 23, they're probably taking a quarterback. So Vikings a very interesting team. When it comes to this draft, obviously. Let's see what they do. 12, the Broncos. Dallas Turner, Quinyon Mitchell, Liatu Latu has been getting a lot of buzz by fans are thinking, some writers think, Denver writers thinking that could be the option. But they're, we'll see. Then Terrion Arnold. So corners and pass rushers there. Could J.J. McCarthy slip through? Probably doesn't get by 11. Would be a reach. Bo Nix does feel like a Sean Payton guy. There's some buzz about it. I don't think it happens, but it would be a reach. Surprise pick would be Brock Bowers. If he's there, and then do they take him? You don't really see that mocked a lot, but could see it with Sean Payton for sure. They upgrade at tight end. If they trade up, I think it'd be McCarthy. They wouldn't be able to trade far up because of the lack of quality draft picks they have. So I'm not going to put May there. If they trade back, which I like this scenario, Brian Thomas Jr., I think it'd be a good fit in Sean Payton's offense, a really good receiver. You trade back, you get him, and you get more picks that you need. So I actually love that scenario for the Denver Broncos. For the Raiders, a couple offensive linemen, Taliesin Fuaga, who could play right tackle for them. J.C. Latham, which I would actually view as more of a fit than Fuaga, but maybe Raiders fans not, happy about taking another Bama tackle. I promise Latham's different in the past. Leatherwood. Terrion Arnold, I think, is a really good fit. Probably the best scenario, but I do like Latham a lot as well. Would be a reach. I put this on here because there's a little bit of buzz. The Raiders like Penix. It could be all smoke. Probably is, to be honest. I think that'd be a reach there. Surprise pick. How about Byron Murphy? No one's talking about because they signed Christian Wilkins to this mega deal, but they need more interior players, and you add Murphy in there. That D-line against, what they have to face in the AFC West is nasty and perfectly set up. So that's an interesting one. If they trade up, I think the quarterback they'd be targeting is Jaden Daniels. They've been a little quiet. Like, it's all Vikings. They're trading up, or Giants, and no Raiders. I think they would like Jaden Daniels. If they trade back, Amarius Mims seems like a really good fit. Like, actually probably fits more than Fuaga. But you trade back, get picks, and get him. I think that's a possibility there. Arnold, Latham. Murphy's my highest graded defensive player. It'd be a surprise one if they do that, but I wouldn't mind that at all. For the Saints, Taliesin Fuaga, J.C. Latham, and Troy Fautanu. Basically, I'm really thinking the Saints are taking an offensive tackle. They need one as it is, and then Ramczyk might not be able to play this next year, and who knows how long that's going to go on for with that situation. So they might need to double down on tackles throughout this draft. So it's a very strong possibility they go tackle. They very well could go Fashanu. For some reason, I seem to be the only one. I think he's a decent player, a lot of upside, but they're way better tackles in this class. Surprise pick, Byron Murphy II. The Saints took a defensive tackle in the first round last year. I think they can do it again. They could upgrade there. Murphy's an absolute stud. They could go that route. Everyone's fully expecting tackle, as I am. But if they trade up, they're going to go for the big guy there, Joe Alt. If they trade back, Amarius Mims could be the target. They like traits over there in New Orleans. So that's a traits guy. They can move back and get more picks and get. They're usually more of a trade-up team, but we'll see if it's different this go-around. Colts at 15. Brock Bowers. This is probably the very, very latest he goes. It's all going to depend on how early do you take a tight end. Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, a couple corners, and Latu. I don't think Dallas Turner will be there. I don't know if they'll view him as a fit anyways. He would fit, but he's kind of like an Abukum type player. Would be a reach, not by a whole lot, but Nate Wiggins, who I think they could target. I just think it'd be a reach. He's really good, but he has a lack of press reps, which is tough in the NFL, tough transition, and he's got durability concerns because of past injuries and how thin he is, and all that kind of goes together. So do you make that risky of a pick, like a guy like that at 15? So it's a little early. It's not crazy, though. Surprise pick would be Cooper DeJean. You don't see it mocked that much. I think they would prefer him at safety maybe, and they did bring Blackman back, but only on a one-year deal, but they could use DeJean at corner as well. Zone guy. Gus Bradley's a zone guy as well, cover 3. If they trade up, maybe Brock Bowers, which is a possibility at 15. If they trade back, Nate Wiggins is a really good fit. If you trade back and then get picks and then take him, that's a lot better than taking him at 15. So, there you go with the Colts. I think the dream for them, just because it's how good of a fit it is Brock Bowers, but we'll see if it happens. But Mitchell's a really good fit in their zone defense there. At 16, Seahawks, they could be sneaky. It feels like offensive line for them, but they could be a little sneaky. But they bring in Ryan Grubb from Washington. Washington, what got that offense going? I know they have a lot of weapons, but that offensive line kept them protected so well, and they need better interior offensive linemen. And Fautanu played for Washington, played for Ryan Grubb, so that's huge, and he can play guard or tackle if they need him to, but he probably starts at guard. Jackson Powers Johnson, I heard a former GM say he's not getting by this point, so watch out for that. Graham Barton's either going to play center or guard, and he can fill that tackle if you need him to. Would be a reach. Michael Penix Jr., maybe a little bit of a reach. Could they take him? I just don't see it, but they could just because the Washington connection there. Surprise pick would be Chop Robinson. You don't see that mocked at all, but really athletic pass rusher from Mike McDonald. If they trade up, I would say Fuaga or Fatanu, but Fuaga, I think they would plug him in right at guard, and they would like that. If they trade back, I think Jackson Powers Johnson, I think they can actually trade back and get him, and I do think they will like him. Doesn't mean they for sure take him, but I do think they will like him. 17, the Jags, Adonai Mitchell, and Brian Thomas Jr. If they have to choose between the two, I think which one kind of meshes best with the receivers they already have. I think it'd be Mitchell. Nate Wiggins seems like a fit for Ryan Nielsen's defense, and Kool-Aid McKinstry could work as well. Would be a steal, Terrion Arnold. You actually see this mocked a lot. I'm thinking he's not there, but at times I do, because it's so top-heavy, this draft, that it could push some top-heavy guys back. But really good fit. Possibly could be there. That'd be amazing. Surprise pick, Xavier Worthy. He actually could go a lot earlier than fans or maybe media think, just because how electrifying he is, how electric he is. And I can just see Doug Peterson using and wanting Xavier Worthy. So that'd be a shocking pick that I could actually see. If they trade up, I think Arnold's just a really good fit where that could be the case. If they trade back, a corner that I think would really fit is Max Melton if they do indeed decide to trade back. They traded back a little bit last year because they knew they can get Anton Harrison. We'll see if that happens again. For the Bengals, Nate Wiggins, in Kool-Aid McKinstry, if they need a corner, they actually need a corner more than people think. I guess it really depends on their thoughts on DJ Turner, which he is solid upside. He kind of was hot and cold last year. But they really have no depth either, which they got injured in the past at the cornerback position. But Graham Barton, who could play any offensive line position for them, or Marius Mims could sit for a year behind Trent Brown at right tackle and be a stud in the future. Would be a steal, J.C. Latham. I really don't think he's going to be there, but there's a lot of people mocking Latham around these parts. Perfect fit. Too good of a player at 18. Would be an A-plus pick, so it's a possibility. Surprise pick would be Brian Thomas Jr. He is a really good fit in the T. Higgins role. T. Higgins is going to be there this year in Cincy, but they could be preparing for him to be gone, and they really value receiver, be like a perfect replacement. If they trade up, again, Latham's such a good fit. If he starts to slide a little bit, and watch out for that. If they trade back, another team that I would like Max Melton for them, a versatile corner that has length, athleticism is kind of what they look for. I think he's going to go a lot higher than people think. But so much for the options for the Bengals. I see people mocking Byron Murphy. First off, I don't think he's going to be there. I guess there's a chance. And I see people mocking Johnny Newton. I don't know if that's the type of D tackle they're looking for. They add Sheldon Rankins. They lost DJ Reader. I think they're more looking for a nose tackle, but we'll see. 19, the Rams are becoming interesting. They're a team I'm kind of starting to change my opinion on what they can do a little bit. I would watch out for tackle. Lyric Jackson looked really solid for who he is last year. And they brought him back on that tender, but there's nothing really set in stone at the tackle position. They really beefed up the interior over, this free agency, but Dotson last year and giving him an extension. So they could go tackle as well. I think we could see some movement. They have a lot of picks in this draft, and they want to make sure they get their guy while they have that first-round pick. So that's a team I'd watch for some movement. But Latu's been mocked there, good fit. Newton to try to replace Aaron Donald. Mims, I think they'll like his traits and his upside. I think a good scheme fit as well. Would be a steal, Troy Fatanu, which I think this is probably the latest. I think 20 is probably the latest he goes. So there's a chance he's here. That is a great fit. And if they trade up, I'd watch out for him. I think they would like him at left tackle. And again, he could play guard. Surprise pick could be Jordan Morgan. I also think McVay would like him a lot. Really good pass protector at left tackle. Really athletic for being a left tackle. And if they trade back, Darius Robinson, could play that 3-4 end spot. Try to get some interior pressure while losing Aaron Donald. Could play off the edge as well. That'd be a big-time wild card. I would expect them to trade up if they do trade. So the Rams could be an intriguing team. 20, the Steelers. Graham Barton's mocked there a bit. He's probably going to play center, we're hearing, at the next level, but could play guard, could even play left tackle if you need him out there. Another center, Jackson Powers Johnson. Seen that mocked a bit. And then the two receivers that, Arthur Smith would like. He likes those physical receivers, bigger body receivers, but these guys are very athletic as well. Would be a steal, Troy Fatanu. I think this is the latest he goes. It'd be a really good pick for left tackle there. And then surprise pick, Mikey Sainer still. I'm hearing he could sneak in to the first round, and this would be more than sneaking in at 20. Maybe a trade back here. But if there's a team that I think would like him the most, I think it'd be the Steelers. He reminds me of Mike Hilton a lot, former Steeler, and it's just a really good fit in their defense. Trade up, I think that Fatano is a really good fit. Where that could be the guy. If they trade back, again, it depends on how far into the second round. If they don't like Jackson Powers-Johnson, like the more physical Zach Frazier a little bit more, but it wouldn't be the sexiest thing in the world. You have to go back in the second round, and to get a center, it's like, that's an underwhelming start for the Steelers. For the Dolphins, they're an interesting team. There's no option right now. There's always surprises. Guys fall through. There's no option that is like, wow, like, yes, would love that for the Dolphins. There's just some options, some good options, but there's some options. Johnny Newton to try to replace Christian Wilkins, pretty good, would make sense. I think receivers are more of a possibility, I guess, than people think. Tyreek Hill, the way he talks, he's not going to be around forever. Waddle has some injury concern. You could definitely use another one, that high-powered offense. So Thomas Jr. and Mitchell, and then Graham Barton that could, fill in for them at multiple spots. Would be a reach, but I can see it. Jordan Morgan, like a good player, but like you would take him at 21 when it's a little early to be a backup right away because you would want your current tackles to start, but it is pretty important because Armstead could go down. Surprise pick, Xavier Worthy. They like their speed, and they could use a receiver at more than people think. If they trade up, I think Taliesin Fuaga is a perfect fit. They would probably play him at right guard, but I think it's a perfect scheme fit for Mike McDaniel, his offensive scheme. And if they trade back, Xavier Leggett's interesting. Could use another receiver. He's got the speed they look for. He's got the physicality. Mike McDaniel, with the Niners, Deebo Samuel. So some similarities there, what they could be looking for. I would actually like that. The Dolphins need more picks, in my opinion, because they lost a lot of guys, and they're missing some picks. So there's like a gap in there. Go back, get a really good fit, really good player, and get a bunch of picks. I would actually like that a lot. For the Eagles, we start to get more teams that, I kind of did away with the reaches and the steals. I think it's hard to reach around, and teams do it, but it's harder to predict that stuff. So realistic options, Amarius Mims, really good project for right tackle to eventually replace Lane Johnson. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a type of corner they look for, a type of like Howie Roseman would draft to me. Former 5-star, physical, really good in multiple coverages. Just a high-end player. Nate Wiggins, somewhat similar. Graham Barton could be the couple of centers that could also play guard. Barton, Powers, Johnson could be the options. Surprise pick, and I would love people, not everyone's going to agree, I would love Chop Robinson for them. Josh Sweat probably only going to be around for one more year. I don't think Nolan Smith's an every down guy. He also has some durability concerns, but add an explosive Robinson in there with Bryce Huff and those other guys would make sense. Tyler Guyton, future Lane Johnson possibility replacement, and Cooper DeJean, who would play multiple different spots for them. Not really counting on that, but I could see if they trade up, I think Arnold's a really good fit for Fangio's defense. If they trade back, another team I think Max Melton makes a lot of sense for. Versatile, lengthy, athletic. It's just the type of corner they could look for. He's just not a former top recruit, so that's kind of what that's why I like Kool-Aid McKinstry, because the Eagles kind of look for those. You don't have to be a top recruit, but Cowboys. Graham Barton seems like a Cowboys guy because he plug and play at center. But you can put him at left guard if you need to put Tyler Smith out at left tackle. You can put him at left tackle if somebody's injured, and you keep Tyler Smith at left guard because he played left tackle in college. Jackson Powers-Johnson, if he's there, that could be your plug-and-play center. Jordan Morgan, really good pass-protecting left tackle. And then Tyler Guyton is a possibility as well. Surprise picks. I think go with one of the receivers to pair with CeeDee Lamb could make sense. And Patrick Paul, which I'm starting to think he could be a surprise first-round option because experience, solid play, super strong and super lengthy. A lot to like there. The Cowboys could like him to replace Tyrone Smith. If they trade up, I think they would like Fashanu. Maybe they would see some Tyrone Smith vibes with him. I would rather keep your picks and take someone else. If they trade back, I could see them liking the physical Zach Frazier if they trade back in the second round. But you could trade back for Patrick Paul as well, guys like that. It's tough to predict who teams would actually, if they trade back, who would they go for. Packers, there's a lot of options for the Packers, and some people think, do they go for a left tackle? I thought that young tackle duo played really well at the end of last year, and they actually just recently signed Andre Dillard. Not that he solves any issues, but I don't think there's much of an issue. So that would be a little surprise to me, but they could do it. Graham Barton could play multiple spots for them. Jackson Powers-Johnson would be an upgrade at center if they want to go there. Newton if they want to add another interior D-line. McKinstry, if they need a corner. And then Cooper DeJean, I'm actually not counting on Cooper DeJean, but it is mocked a little bit. Surprise pick, I think Max Melton's a solid fit. He's not getting enough first-round buzz, though. And then a couple linebackers, because they could use another one. Edger and Cooper from A&M, and Junior Colson, who's been getting a lot of buzz lately from Michigan. If they trade up, I think they'd be targeting a high-end corner. It'd be Terrion Arnold. If they trade back, I think Cooper could be a really good target in the early second for the Green Bay Packers. So they're an interesting one. Yeah, they're a team that could surprise. I have a lot of guys on this list that I could see them taking somebody that's not on this list for some reason. Bucs, Cooper DeJean, a really good fit in that zone defense of Todd Bowles. Graham Barton could play left guard or center for them. Powers Johnson would play center for them. They traded Carlton Davis, so they could use Kool-Aid McKinstry. Chop Robinson, this is probably like around the latest he would go, somewhere at like 27, maybe the latest. That'd be real. I think I like Chop Robinson a lot, so I think it'd be a really good pick right here. Surprise pick, blitzing linebacker and Edger and Cooper, because you got to get ready to replace Levante David, so that could be a little sneaky there. Even though you don't necessarily need to replace him today because he's back for a year. Darius Robinson, they like the physical guys that can do different things there. Same with Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. But if they trade up, then they would go for that high-end zone corner in Mitchell. If they trade back, I think Isaac from Penn State would be a decent fit, early second. Next, we got the Buffalo Bills. Looking at receivers, I think if Brian Thomas Jr. is there, that's like perfect. You got to go that route. May not be there, though, but Adonai Mitchell's kind of that next option. Darius Robinson seems like he's got Bills written all over him. Physical defensive end that could play inside if you need him to. And a couple corners, because they could be looking for a corner. I think McKinstry could thrive in a cover 2 scheme, even though he's scheme versatile. Bills run a lot of cover 2. Cooper DeJean, they would use that. I can see him using at safety or corner, not nickel, because they already have that filled. Kneeland, surprise pick. He's another guy like Darius Robinson, where he's just a really good Bills defensive end fit. And Troy Franklin seems like a possible Stephon Diggs replacement. It would just be pretty early. If they trade up, I think they would. If they go up, and they're going to go all out, go big or go home. Roma Dunze, it's one of my favorite fits in this entire draft. That may not be possible in Roma Dunze to the Bills. So if they do trade up, I think it's because if he starts to slide a little bit and they just go all out, let's get Josh Allen the best possible weapon we can get. If they trade back like Kneeland again, I think it's a really good fit for the Buffalo Bills at defensive end, which we know they could be looking for. 29, the Lions. Kool-Aid McKinstry, we know they need a corner. Ennis Rakestraw has been mocked to them a bit. Seems like a good fit because he's a dude. He's a physical guy. So there's your corners that are realistic options. Could use an outside receiver in Mitchell. Or Darius Robinson's a physical defensive end that could fit Detroit's defense. Kneeland, again, could be a surprise pick, hearing he can go first round. And Max Melton, who I would like that pick for them to help in that corner. If they trade up, I think Chop Robinson's a fantastic fit for them. His explosiveness off the edge. They trade up a little bit. I would not expect them to trade up a ton. And then Kneeland, again, similar to the Bills, physical defensive end. If they are interested, to just move back a little bit there if they go that route. For the Ravens, Mims, they need a right tackle. Fits Todd Monken's Georgia background, that offense. Mitchell, I think, could be here. No one's really mocking it. They have him going earlier, but I think he could be there. There's a possibility, and that's a receiver. They've been missing this receiver. I guess maybe what you thought you were going to get from OBJ, perhaps. Be pretty big, and McConkey's been mocked there a bit. Fit with Todd Monken's offense. And then Guyton could plug and play at right tackle, perhaps, even though he's an upside guy. Surprise pick. Kneeland's a fit. Really good Clowney replacement. And hearing he can go late 1. Darius Robinson, kind of a similar situation. Jordan Morgan, I'd be surprised with that. I think most people wouldn't be surprised because they need an offensive lineman. Morgan's like a 30th pick type of guy. I'd be surprised because I don't know if it's a great scheme fit. Then Troy Franklin, I think teams are going to be split on him, either like late first or early third. I think there's really going to be a big gap. I mean, he could end up going into second very easily. I'm not saying he's not, but some teams could take, I think it'd be a little bit of a reach, but some teams could take him late first. It seems like a Ravens move there with that type of receiver. If they trade up, I don't expect them to trade up because they need their picks, but if they were, they'd have to be in love with somebody, and J.C. Latham is a beautiful fit at right tackle for them. Plug and play, perfect fit, scheme-wise. Really good player. So if they were to do it, trade back, Blake Fisher is a really good fit at right tackle, scheme-wise as well. Ravens draft their golden domers quite a bit too, so in the past. So, but if they trade back to Notre Dame right tackle, it is a possibility for them. 31, the Niners, Darius Robinson. I like that fit. They can to replace Armstead, but use him off the edge a little more than Armstead. And they were it was really on Bosa to get after the quarterback during last year's run. Like, it was surprising, like how the lack of pressure they were getting. So that could help them. Max Melton, love him. You guys know, I think it's a solid fit there. Jordan Morgan, he could play tackle, possibly guard for them, but needs some offensive line help. Guyton's a possibility. Kool-Aid McKinstry could fit at corner as well. Surprise pick. Nealon and Robinson are kind of in the same boat. I think Robinson has more upside. Nealon's quicker. Patrick Paul, he's a guy that can surprise and go earlier than expected. And Mikey Sainer still, zone defense, good fit, playmaking guy that can plug him in the slot. And he could play outside if you need him to. If they trade up, Taliesin Fuaga is a really, really good fit. They either would start him at right tackle or right guard. Either one, really good scheme fit. If they trade back, another great scheme fit is Christian Haynes. They would plug him in right at right guard. That is a UConn guard. But, yeah, he fits the Niners very well. So we'll see what happens there. I think offensive line could be the way. But we talk about corner and defensive end. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Max Melton, again, they replaced L'Jarius Sneed. They like long corners that are athletic as shit and could press. There you go. It's Max Melton. Ladd McConkey be a pretty solid fit there at 32. See that mocked a bit. Jordan Morgan's a really good fit for the Chiefs. Mainly a pass-protecting left tackle. Chiefs love the pass. Tyler Guyton, they took Morris from Oklahoma last year, so if they need someone else, or maybe they just would like Morris to start, but I think they would like Guyton as well. And Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think, would be a good fit. Man and cover two. I think that's what he's best at. And that's what the Chiefs run. Surprise pick, Patrick Paul, they could like for left tackle. Long, strong, experienced. Nealon seems like a physical Chiefs defensive end. Then Troy Franklin is like an MVS replacement. If they trade up, I think they would like Nate Wiggins, his athletic ability. He needs to press more, though. They need to be confident that he can press because he didn't do a whole lot of that, and he's thin. He didn't do a whole lot of it in college. So that's the only part. Other than that, just feels like a Chiefs corner. If they trade back, Kingsley Suamataia would be a solid fit for them at left tackle, who also has experience at right tackle from a couple years ago. So if they were to trade back in a second, that's the guy that first popped in my mind. But it's really hard to predict like who's that one guy they would take if they trade back. So we'll see. The teams that don't have a first-round pick, the Panthers essentially, one away. They're at 33. So you see some receivers, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Leggett, Troy Franklin. I put Adonai Mitchell up there. I think he could slip through. Most likely goes late first, but he's actually diabetic, and there apparently are some teams that are a little worried about that. That doesn't really affect football play, but there's there's types of issues that can happen at any time with that, and so I guess it's a little scary, but it doesn't change the guy can ball. So there's some teams that may not take him in the first because of that, resulting in maybe him slipping through. I think it's perfect for Dave Canales' offense. Rakestraw would be a good fit. If they're going corner, Max Melton as well. I think it'd be a really good pick right there. Surprise pick, Edgerrin Cooper. I guess they could use another linebacker, and it's a really solid one at the top of the second round. I don't know if they're going to value linebacker that much, though. Darius Robinson, get a physical defensive lineman that can play 3-4 end or off the edge for them. Mikey Sainer still really good zone slot corner that could play outside if you need him to. They're going to be a zone defense, obviously, under Evero. McConkey, I think people wouldn't view this as a surprise. I kind of would, just because like Thielen and Deontay Johnson, it's like this in McConkey, they're the same type of receiver. Of course, Thielen's going to be gone soon, but to me, Deontay Johnson's a guy that's mainly best in the slot, but he can play outside. But if you're looking for a receiver, go get that X, the guy that really can work the sideline. And then Nealon, kind of like a Clowney type player, which, I guess they already have. If they were to trade up into the first, I'd watch out for Brian Thomas Jr. Mitchell as well, but Brian Thomas Jr. could be that Mike Evans for Dave Canales and his offense. They need that big-time outside receiver to kind of finish, the last piece of that puzzle for the Carolina Panthers. And then a list of options. We're getting further down here. This video is mainly for the first-round teams, but list of options the Texans could go with their two, and they could take somebody that's not on this list. It is a little tough to predict. But, yeah, I think some defensive tackles they could take. Fisk, Jenkins, Hall Jr., Mason Smith, I think would be a really good fit, but maybe some people would think it'd be a little bit early. If they were to go safety, If they wanted more of a free, because Petrie can play both, but more of a free is Newbin or your split coverage, because they're going to do a lot of that. And then Bishop would be more of that strong safety that can play in the box. TJ Tampa would seem like a pretty decent fit at corner. And if they're looking at offensive line, Pooney would make sense because you can start him at guard, or you don't, or he can be a high-end backup at guard. But he played really well at Kansas at left tackle this year. So if somebody goes down, you put him at left tackle. So that's big. That would be big for the Texans, actually. Christian Haynes could play guard for them, and Christian Mahogany, who I think is underrated, could play guard for them if they wanted that. So different routes they can go. And the Browns also need an interior defensive lineman, so a couple that I think would fit them, and they might look for, later in the second round. Could look for a pass rusher. I think Austin Booker kind of gives me some Harold Landry vibes, which Jim Schwartz coached when he was in Tennessee. And they don't really need a starter out there today. He's an upside guy, so that would work out pretty well. Blake Fisher could be a fit at right tackle. Patrick Paul is a tackle they would like because of his traits. And then Kieran Omega-Deje from Yale looks the part. Looks like he has a lot of upside. Tough to judge because he missed the second half of the year, was injured, and he played weaker competition. But he sure looks the part. And the Browns like him. They like these kind of high upside tackles if they need that. They don't necessarily need a starting tackle, but they have some injury concern really on both spots, and they're kind of looking out for the future here. So that will do it for this one. This was a big one. Really enjoyed it. Just seeing all the different options, in my opinion, a little bit of predict what could happen, but also, in my opinion, what would be best, what would be bad. So a lot went into this one. Ton of work went into this one. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. A lot of content on our channel. More to come. Be live day one. A lot of content on our Twitter as well. Links pinned in the comments. GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GO, percentage off. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.